Hello, I'm Greg. Welcome to my channel, Midnight Oil Software. Today I'm going to continue work on my Moon Patrol remake that I'm adding as a mini game to my Ninja Eggs game. In the previous stream, I added some hazards. I added a boulder and a hill, and I added a turret hazard. So I have a boulder, a hill, and a turret. And I noticed when I was testing it in the last stream that there were some issues. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to debug those issues. First, let's reproduce it and show what the issues were. So there were two issues. One is sometimes the bullets would just bounce off and it wouldn't destroy the hazard. And the other issue is that the hazards would just disappear like that. It would just disappear without ever having been shot or run into. So we've seen the one issue. We've seen the hazard disappear on its own. And there we see the bullet bounce off. So I'm going to debug these. I think we'll tackle the easiest issue first, which I think is the one with the bullet bouncing off. And I think the only reason that would happen is if it thinks it's already dead when it gets hit. And I think this is the culprit here. I'm setting this dead to false in the start method. And I think I want to do this in on enable instead. Because start is only going to get called once when that object is first started. Enable will get called every time it becomes enabled. So that should fix that issue. And actually, for testing purposes, I'm going to increase the rate at which I create these hazards, just so I get more of them faster. So I'm not seeing that issue with things bouncing off. I am seeing the issue with hazards disappearing. So I think I've fixed the first issue. The second issue I think is going to be a little bit more complicated. I think that the problem, when I spawn a hazard, I'm setting the parent to be the hazard transform. So if you remember, in my prefab for the terrain, I have this hazard here, and that's just a game object, and I'm using him as the parent for these other hazards. So when I, in the terrain manager, I think in the script there, when I call add hazard, so in scrolling terrain, I'm taking a game object for that hazard, which is the container I'm using. And I'm setting that as the parent of the hazard. And even though that hazard's being deactivated, this guy is still its parent. So the next time this piece of terrain is deactivated, I'm despawning that hazard child. So yeah, so when I add a hazard, I'm setting this as the parent, and I'm saving a reference to that hazard in this hazard child member here. And then when this terrain scrolls off the edge of the screen, I despawn that hazard. And I'm doing that even though I'm not really its parent anymore. So I think I want to move this stuff out of scrolling terrain. I think what I want to do is I want to have a hazard container. Yeah, I want to have a hazard container component, and I'll add it to that hazard game object that's on the terrain. And when I add the hazard, I'll have that container handle it. And that container can also have a public method on it to remove the hazard. And so when my destructible gets killed here, I can tell that hazard container to remove it. So the next time that terrain despawns, it won't get rid of the hazard. I'm pretty sure that's what I need to do. So let me go back into Unity and go open up my prefab for the normal terrain. So I got this guy here. I'm going to create a script. So I'm going to go into minigames, create C# script, hazard container, all right, so I'm adding that as a member of this game object here. So he will now have a hazard container script. What do I want to do in that script? Well, I'm going to want to have a public method called add hazard. And I want to have a public method called remove hazard. And so what am I doing in my scrolling terrain here? Just copy this stuff out. Actually, let me cache my transform. I want to set my namespace. So when I add the hazard, I set myself as its parent. I zero out its position, I save off a reference to that hazard, and I activate it. In remove hazard, I despawn it, which will deactivate it. I set its parent to null. I want to do that first. Deactivate it, and then I null out my reference to it. So I actually... Do I even need to keep a reference? Because I am passing in this hazard here. For now, I will keep it. I want to see how I'm going to use this first. Excuse me. Okay. So in the terrain manager, when I spawn a hazard, I spawn a hazard of a particular hazard type. And then instead of calling scrolling terrain, I'm going to get the hazard container. And that should take care of that. Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to want this guy to take a parameter, because I can see now that I'm going to be calling that from here. Is that right? But actually, this guy is not the parent. My little hazard game object. This guy. This is the guy. Do I even need to keep this? Let's see. I think that's what I want to do. I'll get the hazard container. And so when I scroll off the screen, I want to get rid of that hazard child. And then when I die, where's my destructible? How do I get the... I think I get it from my parent. I'm probably going to want to move this out of... It doesn't make sense that destructible would know that it's a hazard. But let's see, I'm going to have my parent. Let's see. I'm just going to get it here. I'm not dying that often. I don't need it to be super performant. So hazard container parent equals transform.parent.get component .game object get component hazard container and that should despawn me too. Is there anything else I need to do to make this work? Let me just test it and see what happens. Oops. Well, it's not parenting, obviously. So let's see, that would be in the add hazard. Huh. That's interesting. So I'm instantiating hazards, but I'm not adding them. This is where I spawn it. I must be failing to get my hazard container. Oh. Let me try that. Huh, a boulder appeared and then disappeared. A hill and so I'm getting them, but they're immediately disappearing. Or are they maybe not even being enabled? And I never hit this breakpoint. Oh, so I'm creating them, but I'm never adding them. So they're never getting enabled. So terrain, get component and children, hazard container. So normal terrain. This guy has a hazard container. He is a child of this guy. So get component in children should give me that guy. Oh, get component in children, I believe, takes a parameter for whether or not you want it to give you ones that aren't active. And since it's not active in the scene, it wasn't returning anything. So let's, oh. That's the other thing I want to do. I want to set myself active. Okay, I got my breakpoint, but that's not right. So it doesn't seem to be parented correctly. This doesn't show me its parent. It should be setting it to my own transform, which I'm caching here. I'm just going to eliminate that complexity here. And it should move with that terrain if that is its parent. Oh, that looks better. What changed? Maybe it just had not rebuilt the script. Well, so far so good. All right, I'm happy with that. Let me go to my terrain manager, put that back down, give me a chance to get some craters. See how it looks with some craters in there. Oh, what did I do here? Oh. I apparently broke my prefab. Because this has the same script. I don't think this guy needs this anymore. Right? Oh, I need it for that. No, let's try this. So far it's pretty easy, isn't it? It might be a little harder when, oops. It might be a little bit harder when they start shooting at me and I add enemy ships. I'll probably make it scroll faster too. I've been going for 25 minutes. So what did I want to do next? I'm going to want to add enemy ships, but there's some other things I want to do first. I want to implement that. I want to later on I'm going to add wire up minigame to map. So I want to implement having the turret shoot at me. So I have a little project that I have all the 2D assets that I've gotten from the asset store in one big Unity project, so I could just look at them and see if I want to pull anything in. And I was looking at some sound effects. That might be good for the turret shooting. That one. I like that. So go back over to my project. So it's typically my practice, instead of importing an asset pack directly into my project, which would pull in stuff I might never use and would just kind of bloat my project, I have these other I have these other massive projects where I have all the asset packs of a particular type. So these are my 2D assets. And then when I find something I want, I can just pull that piece into my game, just piecemeal instead of bloating my project. Sometimes I have to actually, if it's a big prefab or something, I need to export it and then import it into my game. But for this one, I'm just going to go into my sounds. Mini games. And so that was called BB Player Fires. So I'm going to want that. The other thing I need to do is figure out, I could draw a visualization, but this is all part of an asset pack called Bullet Pro, which, I mean, for bullets, do I really need to draw my own bullets? Or can I try and use something from this asset pack? So these are explosions. Ooh, ships. Can maybe use one of these as inspiration to draw my own player ships. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Sample bullets. I think something like that might be good. And I'm also thinking I might want to have bombs. I wonder if there's a bomb in this. Not the kind of bomb I'm looking for. So when I add the enemy ships, I want to have it drop bombs on me. That's an icon. Something like that might be cool. That looks hideous. Yeah, something like that. But I'll come back to that when I add the enemy ships. But for now, I think I like this guy. So that's just a PNG. It's just a sprite. So I'll come back over into Unity, into my game, go into my art, minigame, Moon Patrol. Those are prefabs. Art. Okay. Long bullet. And I think that looks good, but how big is it? Whoa, way too big. Okay, so let me... Here we go. I still think that's too big. I want it to be relative to the size, similar to that. So let me go back to this guy. Let me try 1024. That looks better. I like that. So I'm going to add a Polygon Collider 2D and a Rigid Body 2D. He does not need to deal with gravity, and I don't want him to have any drag. And I'm going to want to add a script to him as well. Enemy bullet. And I will refactor that to this namespace. And I know I'm going to want serialized fields for the bullet prefab. I'm going to want a serialized field for a sound effect. So, private transform, awake, cache my transform. On enable. I'm going to want to apply force. Field, float, bullet, speed. I have no idea how fast I want it. We'll start with that. So, see, I want to say, oh, I need to cache my rigid body. Do I even need the transform? I know I need the rigid body. What did I do in the player bullet? I think it was vector 2. Yeah, I think it was vector 2 dot up times force, but let me see what I did there. Player bullet. Is that what I did? Transform up times bullet speed. Oh, and I want to have a lifetime. And honestly, I just realized I don't want the prefab and the sound effect to be part of the bullet. I want it to be part of that turret. So I'll go ahead and remove these. Don't need that. You know, and what, maybe, can I even just use that same script? There's nothing special about this. Yeah. Let me try that. I'm going to delete that script. And I'm going to come up to this guy. And add that. And I'm going to create a prefab from it. Before I do that, I knew it wouldn't save that. Put it on the enemy bullet layer. Okay, prefab. Delete that. All right, and actually, since I know this is always coming out horizontally, is it the Z-axis I want to rotate that on? Yeah. I think that looks pretty cool, actually. So let's go and look at the turret. This guy's going to want a script. So go up to my, how much time I got? I might not be able to get too much farther on this. I'm on my lunch break and I need to go back to work. Put it in here. Move it to my namespace. This is where I'm going to want to have prefabs. If I could type audio clip, fire sound. So I want this to randomly shoot at intervals. So I'll have a float for min delay. We'll say at the very least it's going to be a second between shots. And the max delay, we'll say 5 seconds would be the max. And it's actually inclusive, so, or exclusive. Okay. So we'll decrement that. If that is less than or equal to 0f, we'll fire a bullet. And I want to put a muzzle location on this guy so I know where to put the bullet. So let's go up to my prefab. Call it muzzle. And save that. Come back into my turret script. Object bullet equals object pooler spawn game object bullet prefab muzzle turning identity true. And then have the audio manager play a level sound. Fire sound. And then I want to set my delay equals get delay. All right, I think that should do it. I don't even need this. Oh, ooh. The bullet, does it automatically despawn? It has a lifetime, right? Yes, it despawns. Yeah, I'm good. I don't need this local variable because the bullet just gets spawned and then flies, and then it will go away after its lifetime expires. All right, let me go back into Unity. Add this script. Where did I put that turret script? Put it under controls. That's not right. Yeah. Okay. Put that there. Put the muzzle. Let's see, look at my prefabs here. Enemy bullet. Go into my sounds. script sounds. All right. Let's just see what happens. Oh, I hit the edge of the crater. It's not firing. Nothing in the console here. So let's see. See if I ever get into this method. Yep. Okay, so I've got this guy. Huh. This is the wrong breakpoint. I was confused there for a second. I forgot I had a breakpoint in add hazard. Okay, fire bullet. So here's the bullet prefab. It's an enemy bullet. It's going to put it at this position. I think that looks good. And it should activate it. I heard it play the sound. There's the enemy bullet. You know, I wonder... I thought maybe I need to set its order and layer. Where are you in the scene, bullet? That is not where you belong. How did he end up way over there? Oh, I wonder if my apply force algorithm is wrong for him. And he's not rotated correctly. So I have a couple of things to debug there. But I'm getting toward the end of my lunch break. So that will be on the list for the next stream, to debug why my bullet is firing in the wrong place and going the wrong direction with the wrong rotation. But I think that was some pretty good progress for today. So anyway, I hope that you found this stream interesting. And if so, click the like button or the subscribe button, and click the notification icon if you want to be notified the next time I go live or post a video. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.